G'day and welcome to the shed. Today I've got this PYE model 12 MSW, and this is a project I did about 6 months ago, I suppose, before I was doing videos, and I finished it off. It works beautifully, but it has a couple of issues that I want to deal with, so I thought I'd revisit it. It's a great radio. It's 12 MSW. I suppose it stands for medium and shortwave, and it has 4 shortwave bands. It's got 31 metre, 25 metre, 15 metre and 6 metre bands, all switchable with this switch. It has a Ferrite Rod Antenna inside there, which you can turn by turning this dial here. It's got a magic eye indicator, and I've got a new one of them and it works really well, but that's another issue I want to deal with. It doesn't quite line up with the hole in the baffle, so you can't see it properly, so I need to adjust that. Another thing I wanted to adjust is this, it's got an on-off volume switch, and the switch sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. It was working fine when I put it back in the cabinet, and since then it doesn't feel right, and yeah, there's something not right with that, so I'll have a look at that. And another thing, having it sitting on the bench or in the living room looking at me, I noticed this knob, which is a tuning knob, is slightly higher than the other knobs, and that's been annoying me for a long time. I don't know how far out it is, probably only a millimetre. I'll just put a ruler across it. It is, don't know if you can see that, but that is higher by maybe, by about 2 millimetres. But you can see it, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So anyway, I'll have a look at this. Turning it around, it's got the original back on it. It's in nice condition. It was particularly beat up when I got it. It was pretty rough, and I did a lot of work on the cabinet as well as on the chassis. It didn't work, of course, but I don't remember quite what I did with this now. I did take a lot of photos, so no doubt it'll come back to me. Okay, so let's have a look inside. I just have to pull the cord through that hole. Put that aside where I won't get hurt, and there we have it. Oh, that's another issue too. The wiring from this loop stick antenna, I just laced it up into one lot. It originally had a piece of cardboard stapled together with the green ground wire separate from the rest of the bunch, and I thought, oh, that's just something someone's done when they've been mucking around it. It didn't look original to me, but then I saw online some photos of some other identical sets or very similar, and they had the same thing. So I'm going to undo this and I'm going to put it back to original. I don't know if it has any effect on performance. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I want it original. And the magic eye indicator is up here, and this sits in a recess in the woodwork, and I think I just need to do a little bit of wood butchery to get it to sit right in front of the little window, which will mean pulling the baffle out. Bit of a nuisance, but not much I can do about that. So I may as well get on with that. I'll get the chassis out, which is a bit of a job actually. There's a lot of things to undo, and I'll come back when I've done that, because it's going to take a while. Okay, well, I've got the knobs off now. About time I should be able to get the chassis out. That, strangely enough, is quite simple once you've got the knobs off and everything else unscrewed. Just need to take these 2 bolts out here, and it doesn't work if you use a Phillips screwdriver. go. This one isn't perfect, but it'll do. And that should just slide out. Yep. Oh, I still haven't got that valve out. There we go. So here's the magic eye tube. So I'll lift that out. This really is a nice cabinet. This is the first one I tried spraying it with acrylic lacquer and then rubbing it down with fine emery paper and polishing it. With this one I think I used car polish and Brasso, and it is a nice finish. I didn't bring it up to a very high gloss. I'm thinking I could probably give it another polish before I finish with it today. We'll see how we go. Oh yes, and I did drop a couple of screws in the cabinet taking things apart, so I'll just fish them out before I lose them. Okay, and here we have it. I suppose I'll have to unpick all that lacing I did on this thing, but I'll look at that in a minute. And I'll need to get the case, the baffle out, so I can fit this to it properly as well. Let's have a look at the volume knob. That's the tuning knob. That's not sitting quite right. There we are. I don't know how I'm going to be able to move that. It sits through a hole in the punched in the chassis, and I can't see how it'll move up or down. I might be able to move the other pots up slightly, perhaps. I'll just put a ruler across them now that I've got the and they look fine now. What the? Just turn this around. Yeah, this is the one that was higher. No, it is higher. It is higher by. I'd need to put a ruler underneath it and check the clearance underneath. This one now is lower, and this one is higher, so it is only about 1 millimetre higher than the two outer ones, but this one here is also about 1 millimetre lower, or maybe 2. It's hard to get a decent measurement on this, but looking at it visually I'd say 2 millimetres. Why is that? It has this joiner in it, and I think that was an original fitting. Perhaps that's sitting crooked. Let's see, as you rotate the knob, it is off centre. See that moving around? It's slightly bent somehow so that it moves off centre as you turn it. Alright, I'll put that in its downmost position. And with it down there, this tuning knob sitting up is still sitting up by a couple of mil. Yeah, I'll see if I can straighten that out anyway. So this, I think I can safely tip the chassis up. Just carefully put those aside. Okay, so this is a wire clip and it runs through a punched hole in the chassis, so I can't see how I can alter that. There's some wriggle room in these. This one has a vertical adjustment, and maybe there's some adjustment in these too, so I'll see if I can just move them around to be in the middle. The other thing is this one here, this has the dodgy switch on it, so I need to pull it out anyway. Okay, so this is the tone control, this left one, and yes, there's a little bit of adjustment in it. I'll just push it down as far as I can and do it up again. There's nothing else I can do unless I go filing out the hole in the chassis, and I'm not about to do that. That's a bit too drastic. This band switch on the right has some vertical adjustment in it too. I'm going to take this joiner off here. I remember now that this is not original. There was some problem with it and I put this in. I don't really remember why, but that looks like a new flat cut on a shaft there. I think what I may have is a 6mm shaft in a 1/4 inch joiner. I'll check that later. But this pot, I don't know what I'm going to do with the switch on it. Might have to replace the whole unit. It doesn't appear to be one of those ones that you can just bend the tabs back and remove it. So just loosening off the band switch here a little bit. And ignoring that volume knob, this should slide up to there. That's good. They're all right. So these three are the same height. Just holding that in position. Do up the nut. It's moving up as I tighten it. I remember now why I cut and joined the volume control shaft on this radio. When I first got it, the shaft on the volume control was shorter than the others, and a previous owner had got around this, and I just found the original knobs. This is one of the two small knobs in the middle, and this one, to get around the fact that the shaft was shorter, someone has machined off the outside of the knob so that this part will sit further in, and you can see they've gone to the point there where the grub screw is visible through the back. And so to make up for the short shaft, this had been pushed right into the woodwork. And so yeah, I know these were not original knobs. These two I think may be the original knobs. I don't know. All I have to go on is this grainy black and white sketch which I got off Radio Museum. But looking at the back of the knobs here, it says the brand is Bato, I think, B-A-T-O, and it says Japan. Now, I'm wondering if a radio built in the 1950s in Australia, just like 10 years after the Second World War, would have had knobs in it that were made in Japan. I don't know, but they do look very like the illustration in the Radio Museum, so I don't really know. Anyway, I've also found a lot of old photos that I took during the restoration of this radio, and I did actually do some video of it. Although I didn't post it on YouTube at the time, I did do a few short videos during the process. So I'll show you those in a minute. This is a short compilation of the videos I took while I was working on this radio. When I got it, it was absolutely filthy, covered in black sooty muck. It didn't pick up any stations either. After a bit of a clean-up, it started intermittently picking up stations, but bizarrely it would only work on dim bulb. Anyway, long story short, it turned out to be the tuning gang shorting out the oscillator intermittently. The more I cleaned it, the better it got.
7-2 Armour Centre West. Insurance brokers for business. Visit. Thanks to Spec.
I nearly had it fixed, and I gave it one last clean, and I was drying it out with my heat gun. That's when I found out my heat gun was powerful enough to melt the solder in the tuning gang. So, luckily I found a replacement tuning gang, absolutely identical, and fitted that, and after that the set worked perfectly.
I'm staying with Harrison Ford.
Another American's first wife had died.
Oh, I thought you were looking
And you
up.
were glancing up at the screen.
You were going left and I was going right.
I did eventually end up fixing the original tuning gang, and I've kept it as a spare in case I ever need another one. Okay, so those three shafts are now level. The volume knob is too low, and I'm not sure why that is, but that's the one I have to pull out anyway, so I may as well see what I can do with that. I might be able to do something with it in place. A friend of mine showed me a technique where he drills a tiny hole in the back of the switch and floods it with contact cleaner and works it backwards and forwards. I can give that a shot. It might work. If that fails, I'll have to pull it out, try and disassemble it and see what I can do with it. Worst case scenario, I guess I get another pot, but I don't really want to have to go to that extent. I might have something there that'll do the trick. Not even sure what value it is now. Guess we'll find out. Just undoing that. And there is some up and down movement available in that, so that's handy. Let's just see if I can... Yep, that will move up to the point where they all line up, so that's good. In fact, what I might do is just push it up to there, tighten it, and see if I can do the hole drilling technique for fixing the switch. Don't know if I can or not, but... Alright, so I've got 1mm drill set up in the Dremel. That went through very quickly, and the drill had a bit of a wobble in it, so I've got a bigger hole than I anticipated. Anyway, I don't think it'll make any difference. I'm going to fill that with contact cleaner and see how we go. This is just the stuff I got from J-Car. It's just flooding at the bottom, so there's obviously some sort of a hole in there on the other side. Probably a good thing because I didn't want it full of this stuff, but just doesn't have quite the right feel to it. I'll try tipping it at a different angle. Yeah, it's got some movement in it, that. Okay, well, we'll see how that's gone. I hooked my multimeter up to it, digital multimeter, but that's not really quick enough to show any splutters or anything in it. So what I've done is I've put the old multimeter in series with it. Now this one doesn't measure ohms because the battery case is corroded and I've never bothered to get it going, but it does measure milliamps pretty well, so I've just put it in series with my multimeter. And just looking at this, it doesn't seem to have any problem. Yep, that's fine. Now this is a double pole switch, so I'll put it on the other side and see if that's making contact as well. I guess it must be these two terminals because they're the only two that are left. Well, that shows to be working fine on here. The feel of the switch has improved. It gives a more positive click now, so I'm happy with that. I've just got to try and sort something out about this spindle and try and get it central. So I'm still a bit concerned about this volume shaft. It seems sloppy. That doesn't have the grub screw done up, of course, but this shaft measures, I think, 6.4 millimeters. Yep, 6.38. It depends on how you hold it, really. 6.38, 6.34 millimeters. The hole in this is 6.4. So 0.06 of a millimeter should not give it that much slop. That should be a nice fit over there, but in fact what you get is that it wobbles around, and of course it has that flat on it and the grub screw is very close to the bottom, so I suspect that it's not securing it very well. Okay, well, I've been fiddling with this a bit more, and what I've done is I found that the grub screws were tilting the shaft in the joiner here. So I've turned it around and I put the grub screws not against the flat, I've put them in good and tight against the side of the shaft, and in that way, and I've lined the flats up so that any error is cancelled. So what happens now is that the shaft seems to stay vertical, although the joining piece is actually not quite central. It keeps the shaft in place, so I think that will be pretty good. They line up that way, they line up that way, so I think I should have all my knobs in a row with any luck. Okay, so now we come to the Ferrite Aerial, and as I said, I saw a photo where the green earth wire was kept apart from the others, and I suppose stray capacitance could be an issue with this, especially on the shortwave bands. So I'm going to take this apart and replace the piece of cardboard that was originally holding this away. And so I don't know if it'll make any difference in the real world, but I'd like to have it as original as I can. So I'll cut this lacing off. Actually, these cutters aren't quite as good as they were when they were new. This was a nice pair of cutters when I bought them. They would cut a hair. Now, yeah, I'll have to get myself another pair, I think. So might be easier to unpick it than cut it with these. I did learn to do this reasonably well years ago when I was with Telecom, but gee, that's a long time ago and I've forgotten how we were supposed to do it. There was a bunch of old grey-haired men back then, and I was a young bloke, a hippie with long hair and a beard, and they didn't like me much and I didn't like them much, and they were very, very picky about how I laced up my wiring looms. It all had to be absolutely perfect and just so. They all thought that I would amount to no good, and in retrospect they were probably right. But I'm having fun. Okay, so I should still have the original piece of cardboard. Yes, here it is in my junk box. So this is what was originally on it. It had these old staples in it, which are still there. I didn't even throw them away. I can probably put it in and bend them back. Maybe I shouldn't go that far. And they were just held like that. And I don't think these were laced up, but I'll lace them up again because I like doing that sort of thing. I'm just that kind of guy. Back in a second with a stapler. I've got my partner's favourite stapler from her office. This thing must be from the 1960s, I think. And it's a fabulous old stapler. Never misses. They don't make them like they used to. I'll just get over here and yep, that should do the trick, I think. Just two. It'll hold them where they're meant to go and slide to an appropriate spot. Good. Must remember to give that back to her or I'm in trouble. Now I've got a lifetime supply of this stuff, so I may as well cut a new piece off. have no idea about the right way to do this anymore. As I said, I'll do what I think is a clove hitch around here and another one. Either way, I'm pretty sure the radio will still work, whether it's a proper clove hitch or not. That'll do. Okay, it's another job out of the way. The only remaining thing to do is I want to fit this valve holder onto the back of the speaker valve baffle in such a way that the tube shows nicely through the hole. So to do that I'll have to pull out the speaker baffle. So I'll do that and I'll come back. I wasn't going to take the speaker out, but I have to because it covers one of the screws that holds the baffle in. So here we go. Nice little speaker. I've obviously done a small repair on it. That was with liquid electrical tape, and you can see now there's another little tear in it there that I must have missed before, unless I did it from behind. No. Alright, I'll get some liquid electrical tape and do this one, and I might give this a touch up down here too. And what's that? Is that a hole in the cone there? Can't be, surely. I'll touch that up anyway while I'm at it. Put a little bit on there. I'll put a dab on that hole. Oh, I've got a string of it on the thing. Alright. Cotton bud, I'll just go over this. It does get a lot thinner as it dries. Put a little dab on there too. Now, I don't know what it is with this hole here, but I'm going to put some on that as well. Looks just like a hole straight through the cone. This is going to be a messy job because the stuff keeps pulling out in strings. It must be getting old. Might need a new tube of it. Okay, I'll put that aside. Put the cap on the tube on so it won't dry out again. Now let's take this last baffle screw out, and that one's in at a funny sort of angle. Right, and out with the baffle. I'll just put that there for the moment. And I'm just going to put a bit of tape on the dial glass so I don't accidentally have a disaster with that. The dial glass is held in by the speaker baffle, or finally held in place by the speaker baffle. It does have a couple of little brackets on it here, but I don't trust them to hold it up when I put the cabinet out on the floor. Alright, that should be safe enough. I'll just put it over here. Now, yeah, these are the little brackets that hold the dial glass in, still screwed to the speaker baffle. Now, let's see what we can do with this valve. Okay, so with the valve screwed in there, It's offset here by, looking straight at it, a couple of millimeters. It seems like more than that when you're looking at the radio, but that's what it is. I'm wondering if this little escutcheon could be moved over a little bit, rather having to move the valve mounting. I'll try that first, see how we go with that. I'll just undo the staples I put in it. Yeah, now it does move. Take that staple out as well. That's now as far over that way as I can get it. I'll just make sure the front is still okay. It's not showing, no, it's not showing anything through there, so that's all right. That is square, I think. Alright, I'll staple it back in position there, and see how much difference that makes. That may not entirely solve our problem, but then again it might. Take this one out too. And I don't think there's any point in putting a staple on this side because there's too much gap there for it to hold. Alright, so let's see where the tube sits now. Assuming it's sitting in its holes like so. That's better. I'm not 100% happy. I would like it slightly lower and slightly further towards the center by, yeah, a little bit. Alright, so slightly lower, so I'll need to go down this way a little bit. I need to go down this way a little bit and across this way a little bit. I'll take the tube out before I break it or something. These things are not easy to get. I need to take a little piece of timber out of it there. That, and I will need to drop this line a little bit. Alright, I'm going to attack this with chisels and such. Actually I'll try and do it a little bit more gently than that, but I'll come back when I've done it. I'm not going to try and do a pretty job. No one's going to see it, I suppose, although I don't want to butcher it either, so I'll try and do a medium job. How's that? I'll start by making a couple of cuts. this out with a chisel. Okay, so that's now smooth or flush with the existing cutout. Just take that along there. I went offline very slightly with the knife, so I'll just bring that in square. And this little cutout here, I'll just do the same thing with it, I guess. I ended up holding the hardened rubber tube holder in with this epoxy resin putty, and it's not going to let go. I'll try and gently prise it off later, but for the moment I'm leaving it in place, which is a bit of a nuisance, but especially when I can't get a ruler to sit on it. There we go. Now I'll just do a couple of cuts here. Okay, so let's see where it sits now. Pop the tube in. And this can now move further over to the left. Yeah, actually I'm pretty happy with that. Just like that. So I'll just mark where the screws go now. Hole there, and a hole there. There's just something holding up the front of it. It's not sitting as far forward as I'd like. Nothing under it. Oh, that little bit of solder where the valve base was soldered in. I might just clean that up. Just a file or something. I'll do that. I managed to get that piece of epoxy putty off, but unfortunately it's taken a bit of wood with it, so I'm just going to glue as much of it as I can back in, and I'll just put some filler on that. Once I finish with this, I'll just put some matte black paint over it, and that should be all good. Let's use a bit of this Timbermate wood filler. Someone's punched a hole in this spatula. Don't know how that happened. Dig down and get some from underneath. It's water based, this stuff, so if it goes too hard you just mix a little bit of water in with it. That's sitting up there, that's no good. That is quite dry, but this stuff will stick nicely anyway, so alright. That might just help it along a little bit. Won't dry it entirely. Alright, I'll just leave that there while I go and have a cup of coffee. When I come back, hopefully it'll be dry enough to just sand off and give the thing a coat of matte black paint. Okay, that should be pretty dry now. I've had coffee and a bit of a break. Right, I'll just give that a little spray with flat black paint. Cover that up. Well, that should be dry now. Let's just have a look. And I probably shouldn't have painted it before I put the screw holes in, or no, I can see where I marked the spot, so that's alright. I'll just put the tube in. Excuse my arm. Line that up with my marks, which are there, and see how that looks through the front. And that's good just there. I'll just mark them again so I don't make a mistake. And drill a small pilot hole for the screws. I'll try this one, see if we can find its hole. Yep, so if that one's gone in, this one should go in. That's the theory. This is where you don't want the screwdriver to slip and go through the glass. Fortunately it didn't this time. And this one. There's a screw in each corner, but someone's put an extra one in near the middle, perhaps to help support the weight of the speaker. And it kind of has not been screwed straight into the wood. It goes up, it goes in at a funny angle towards the side of the cabinet, which makes it very awkward to screw in. But that's how it was when I got it, so I'm not going to change it, although it's tempting. I could just drill a hole and put it somewhere more convenient, an inch to the left, or almost anything would be better than that. Okay, now I'm just going to stand it up for a minute and I'm going to check the position of this brass strip. And it ideally sits level. Yeah, that looks like that's where it's supposed to sit. All right. I'll go ahead and tighten these up a bit more. I'll try a stubby screwdriver so I don't have to worry so much about the size of the cabinet. That's not bedded down into the countersink in the wood. I don't know if it ever was, if that screw's just an afterthought. I'll see if the speaker sits in there on top of it, otherwise I'm going to have to do something with that. The speaker screw holes there. It does. You can see a little bit of damage on the speaker there where it's been hitting that screw head. I really don't like that. I'm going to take it out and put something else in there. That's just not right. Someone has done that. Afterwards, perhaps I thought the speaker would put too much force on the, or too much drag on the backing plate, on the baffle plate. I can't imagine. Or maybe there was a buzz or a vibration and they did it to get rid of that. That's a possibility too. I've decided to leave that screw out. I don't think it was there originally. The hole for it isn't countersunk like the other screws. It interferes with the speaker sitting on in the baffle properly. And I do think it was put there later on by someone. I'm just using tape to pick up some of the dust and stuff off the back of the speaker baffle. Off the back of the grill cloth. Okay, so I'll put the speaker in. Place it carefully over the screw holes. Turn this around a little bit so you can see, maybe. Okay, now I'll stand it up and we'll slide the chassis in. Before I put it back in the cabinet, I just thought I'd show you this dial string arrangement. I did restring this, and believe me, it gave me some grief, but it is quite a clever system, and I haven't seen it on anything before. And essentially, the string conventionally goes around the dial drum, and the ends of it are connected to this slider, which moves backwards and forwards, and that would usually just carry the cursor with it. But in this case, in addition to this slider moving backwards and forwards, it has this pantograph arrangement, or I called it a cat's cradle at the time, with this cord going up, anchored at this corner with a spring, goes up around here, and it's anchored again at the other corner here. And so that causes the cursor to move across this movable slider as it goes, which basically gives it an expanded range. So you can see that this is moving quite slowly, and that's being driven by the dial drum, and as it moves along, the cursor is moving at approximately double the speed across the scale, and this enables it to have a scale about a foot long, being driven from a dial drum with a diameter of about 4 inches. Now Yeah, anyway, I thought it was quite clever. I've never seen it before. It runs beautifully smoothly. It's got a big flywheel attached to it, so it has a lovely feel to it, and it's very easy to make fine adjustments, which will be very useful for the short wave band, I would think. Anyway, back into the cabinet with it. Putting the chassis back in is actually pretty simple. It's got two locating pins in here which engage in holes in the front of the chassis, so you just push it in till it clicks, and there's two screws that hold it in at the back. So from that point of view it couldn't be easier. It's just that there are a few other bits and pieces to screw in once you've got the chassis in the cabinet. And now it doesn't want to engage with its pins. Why doesn't it want to do that? There's something hanging it up. Oh, there is something hanging it up. I put a knob on the tuning to show you that dial string. Okay, we'll try again. There we go, and it just snicks into place, and we just put a couple of screws in there, and that's it. So we just plug the speaker in. It has sockets there for 2 or 4 ohm speakers, so it gives you a choice. This is a 4, I believe. That's where it was plugged in, so I just put that in there. So next I think we'll mount this Magic Eye tube. Now I've got a bit better light on the subject. I'll just slip this up onto the screws that I put in earlier. Actually, I'll put the tube in first. And this just slips over the bottom of it. Oops. Sorry, my arm's blocking that. Okay. Now the only thing to do now is to put in this Ferrite Rod Antenna. And that just screws up in here. Easier said than done, but it's just a bit fiddly. It's not that hard to get in. I just realised you can't see a thing there. Anyway, that might be better. Not that it's all that exciting, but getting this thing up in here is a little bit character building. Okay, where did that drop? Search and rescue mission for that screw. I've looked literally everywhere for this screw. I've turned the cabinet upside down and I have just spotted it hiding around this corner here, I think. Got this little magnet off a fridge magnet that might pick it up. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I think the best thing is to leave the cabinet upside down while I do this. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Just put it in there, and the little bugger can't fall anywhere. this little tag strip just sits here and keeps the wires under control. And I think that's this screw here. Okay, I'll turn him upside down, and I might just give it a run. Okay, well, I've got the knobs back on, plugged it in. I don't think I'll put it on dim bulb just in case I've done anything really stupid. I don't think so though. That switch seems to be working nicely now. Just give it a minute to warm up. Oh, I haven't put an aerial on it, just a minute. The aerial on this needs a banana plug, so I've found one now. So hopefully we'll get something. What are we on? 1 is broadcast, 2 is shortwave. Oh, 1 is pickup, I think. Yep, 1 is pickup.
Yourself disgusted by the behaviour of the crowd.
It's that time of the year again. Time for the Tamworth Country Music Festival, culminating with the Golden Guitar Awards. Who will win one this year? The finalists have been announced for the 50th Golden Guitar Awards.
This really is a lovely radio. The cabinets come up beautifully. I just gave it another go over with Brasso, just on the top, and a wipe over, and yeah, looks $1 million.
Thanks to people like Shane Nicholson. He's up for 5 Golden Guitar Awards.
I suppose we could give the shortwave a run. I don't know what we'll get. Probably something. I'm not sure what band I should be looking on.
Dan ekonomi digital. Kedua pihak juga sepakat meningkatkan politik tahun 2019. Inovasi kreatif dan sains teknologi menjadi satu protokol tentang inovasi antar negara. Tentang pendirian kerjasama perdagangan Asia Semeska.
Yeah, well, shortwave works nicely as well. I think we'll go back to broadcast though.
April, I've just let the song take me on a journey, and sometimes you end up quite a ways away from where you planned, and that's the beauty of it. It's an inexact science. I wish I was a simple had a coax catch up on all the years that we let slip through.
This really is a lovely radio. Unfortunately, like a lot of radios, I don't have anywhere to put it. I'm not really a collector. I like restoring radios, getting them back to the way they should be, and finding a good home for them. So hopefully this one will find a good home, someone that'll appreciate it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. As usual, it's ended up longer than I anticipated. I never know how much to cut out and how much to leave in. If you have any comments, I'd be interested in feedback. I'm always trying to improve the way I do these videos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time in the shed.